It's time for an Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this time around, we're going to talk about grief and grief support. It's something that a lot of us go through. I know that I went through it after my sister passed away in early November, and I joined a grief support group that is sponsored by Wesley Life Park Center. My sister was in hospice care for about a year, and she had been at Park Center for about 5 years under their care. They did a great job. And of course, I did a podcast with Anna and Dr. Edwards, who take care of hospice care. And now that my sister has passed, they follow up with grief support. And we talk about dealing with that. Not only myself, but I know several people that have used grief support. I know someone, a fellow radio brother who just lost his mom that is dealing with grief also. And grief is a tough thing to deal with. Everybody goes through it in a lot of different ways. And so we'll be discussing that in this podcast. I don't mean it to be a downer. I mean it to be something that is very helpful to you, possibly if you're going through that right now, or maybe it's something you can relate to, or at least pass along to a friend. So let's move along and talk about our great sponsors that we have. Newton Clinic, who've signed up for another year. And I want to thank Mark at Newton Clinic for supporting the mission of Out and About with Jamie Grout, of keeping you informed with people and events going on around the Newton area. And they have posted on their Facebook page winter wellness tips. They suggest stay hydrated, get enough sleep, wash hands often, especially with cold and flu germs going around, stay active, and eat immune boosting foods. Those would be foods that are rich in vitamin C, zinc, probiotics like citrus fruits, also leafy greens, garlic, yogurt, and nuts. I have my yogurt every morning when I'm running the control board there at WHO Radio. It is great. I try to have a multiple vitamin every day too. And also they say limit germ exposure, reduce germs spread by washing hands often, avoiding close contact with sick individuals, covering coughs and sneezes, and cleaning commonly touched surfaces like doorknobs and phones also. Some suggestions on winter wellness tips from Newton Clinic. Cold weather can be tough on your immune system, so if you're dealing with some kind of sickness, head on in to Newton Clinic. They'd love to help you out. Also, a big sponsor is Ryan's Tire and Auto. He just did a video last night, and he's wanting to help out with some kind of scholarship for auto mechanic kids at Newton Senior High School, and he's also wanting to do some kind of promotion for Valentine's Day that he's talking about. If you need your vehicle winterized yet, or new tires, maybe brake service or oil change, head on into Ryan's Tire and Auto. They take pride in delivering more than just tires and vehicle maintenance. They provide an unwavering commitment to great service every time. As a locally owned and operated small business, they understand the importance of building lasting relationships with their valued customers. Their team of dedicated professionals is passionate about automobiles and is committed to going that extra mile for you at Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. Another fantastic sponsor, Advantage Credit Union.
If you've been fouled by your financial institution, then blow the whistle. This is Coach Miles from Advantage Credit Union with some one-on-one for a financial victory. At ACU, you're treated like you own the team because you actually do. Advantage Credit Union offers great deposit rates. You actually earn interest instead of paying a monthly fee at you know where.
Bank shot, good!
If you live or work in Jasper County or 18 other central Iowa counties, you are eligible to join. Visit us in downtown Newton or online at acuiowa.org. It's a game winner at ACU.
Member NCUA.
It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this time around we're going to talk about grief and grief support. And in the interest of clarity, I'm going to tell you that my sister passed away on November 1st. Some of you already know about this. She passed away from Parkinson's disease, and she had been diagnosed with this like 5 years ago, maybe a little over 5 years ago, out in Portland, Oregon. And I flew out there and got her house sold and got her back to Newton to Wesley Life Park Center. And they took really, really good care of her here. I totally endorse Wesley Life Park Center, and she started out in assisted living, and then her condition slowly deteriorated to where she was in the healthcare center. And again, she got great care, and she passed away again in early November. And even though I knew it was coming, it was difficult for me because my sister was like a second mom to me, and we were very close. She went to the University of Iowa, but then she moved to Boston, and then she moved across the country to San Francisco and then to Portland, Oregon. And even though she lived in different parts of the country, we emotionally were always very close. I was her little brother, and even after my parents died, we got even closer. And I'm telling you, this grief support group has been a benefit to me. I've had a lot of friends that have been very close to me, that have been very supportive of me also. But I wanted to talk to Elaine because we just wrapped up having a grief support group. And Elaine is a chaplain here, and she led the group and did a very good job with this. And Elaine, one of the things that we talked about and went around the room, that everybody kind of deals with grief in a lot of different ways. And you went down a list about understanding early grief, and there's kind of a checklist about recognizing and normalizing the signs of grief. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we just recognize the first signs of grief. Everything that maybe you did feel normal before a loss is very abnormal now, or feels that way. Some individuals will say it's surreal, like it's happening to someone else. Could this actually be happening to me? Is that shock or that numbness where we just can't take in that emotion of grief and loss of a loved one at that particular moment, maybe. And so we just have to kind of determine what's the best route for us. There's no right or wrong in ways of feeling. You have crying, waves of grief sometimes come. Some people say, I haven't cried. What's wrong with me? Why can't I cry? And really, we just, in the grief world, we just kind of say anything's game, and there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And people are going to process in different ways, in different timelines. So it's being kind to yourself, being gentle with yourself, not expecting too much of yourself in the very beginning, especially. And that doesn't go away right away. There's certainly, people talk about sometimes there's stages of grief. I'm not sure that we even teach that really anymore. It's not a linear stage. You kind of go back and forth with sadness and maybe a form of depression, maybe even from the situation. And then maybe even relief if the person had been suffering or had a long-term illness. And people will say, wow, should I feel relieved? I'm thankful they're not suffering anymore. Is that okay? Absolutely. It's all a part of that experience, that you can feel sorrow, maybe even joy, that my loved one is out of pain. I can be joyful of that, but yet have sorrow at the same time because you miss them.
Yeah, I know. My aunt had arthritis real bad, and she was not doing very well. She lived way over in western Iowa in Missouri Valley, and I know for about a year she came and lived with us in Newton, to the point where I think my mom and my father felt that she was healthy enough to go back and live over in western Iowa in Missouri Valley. Well, then she ended up dying, and they thought she had tuberculosis or something like that, but it turned out they misdiagnosed her, and she had pneumonia real bad, and she passed away from that. And my mom felt very guilty about sending her back to western Iowa to live, and sometimes you do get these guilt feelings, but I think my mom did the very best with her that she possibly could have, and it was a mistake, I think, on the vantage point of the doctors when looking back on that whole thing. And when my parents died, they died in the mid-90s, And my father died from complications of Crohn's disease. And I see these TV commercials now with all these medications dealing with Crohn's disease, and I think, good heavens, if my dad were alive now, he might have been able to, get through all that kind of stuff. My mom, when she passed away, it was just real sudden. It was either a heart attack or a stroke, I don't know. But everybody, like you say, goes through grief in their own way. And with my sister having passed November 1st, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming eventually. And yet, when it happened, it still bothered me. And it hit me hard when it passed. And maybe it was just the stark realization of knowing that she was gone. And I guess maybe I'm sharing a little bit because I'm going through the grief support thing, and I'm opening up to you a little bit. But it's hard to believe that she's not here anymore. And part of it also is that, one of the people that was in the group was talking about not remembering a time when her husband was not healthy. And I'm having trouble remembering a time when my sister wasn't dealing with Parkinson's disease, because she had lived in all these different places in Boston, San Francisco, and Portland, and I didn't see her a whole lot. And I did see her more when she was here at Park Center dealing with Parkinson's disease. And she was in this body that was just slowly sinking in the sunset, dying and stuff. And I can remember coming into her room here at Park Center and feeling very sad and starting to cry. And she did not want that. She didn't want her little brother to be sad. And so now I think, well, when I start to get sad, would my sister want that? And she probably wouldn't want that. She would want me to be happy. So I try not to be sad. I would only be sad because I miss her, and people feel differently in a lot of different ways. Yeah. Can we talk about this checklist that you had here and handed out at the meeting today, Elaine?
Yeah, we as a group, we kind of went over those first signs of grief, just recognizing what's going on inside of you. And I think we spoke about the shock and the numbness. People have felt overwhelmed with sadness. Sometimes you feel guilty, wondering, could I have done something differently? A lot of times I'll tell people when they say that is, did you make the decisions with the knowledge that you had at the time you were making them? Well, yes. But I think that's also, even having the feelings of guilt or maybe anger at the situation, at people, or even at our Creator, is a way of our processing. It's a way of wrapping our brain and our emotions around a sense of loss. And some people will say, I'm just numb out. I feel like I don't feel anything, and that worries me. Some of the emotions, they'll come in waves. I sometimes will even describe my own as I'm doing pretty good, and all of a sudden a rogue wave will just wipe right up and take me off my feet. And calm one minute, just kind of devastated the next. And we visited about this in the group, how cortisone level changes, this little area in the amygdala and the brain releases chemicals that will change levels in a person's body physiologically, causing them to have what we sometimes describe as grief fog, where we have difficulty focusing or concentrating, sleeping, lots of different things that are just, I remember asking, honestly, I asked a therapist one time after a significant loss in my life, I really felt I was going crazy because I had never felt what I was feeling. And I was not even able to articulate it. It was just, I was experiencing some of these physical exhaustion, trouble sleeping, having just changes in appetite. I hold my tension in my neck, so that would always be kind of a trigger sign that, Elaine, you just have to breathe. You have to kind of just acknowledge what you're going through, and identify that, and maybe it loses some of its hold on you for a while. And then just people feeling that they're replaying moments over and over, maybe about their loved one's death, especially if it could have been maybe a traumatic situation. And that I would always refer somebody, to some maybe professional counseling or therapy, even if it seems to be really impeding their everyday life. But for the most part, it's being tender with yourself, caring for yourself in such a way that if you were being nice to a friend or encouraging them to take care of themselves, sometimes we don't think about that just in our own self care. And the old saying is you can't draw from an empty bucket. So kind of do what fills your bucket for a period of time. And that's different. And you may not even be able to identify what that is when you're really in that midst of especially the early onset grief. And to be, one of the other things it's saying is just be comfortable with that silence. Sometimes just allowing the tears to come up. I feel like people like to push those negative feelings or those painful feelings down, or let's stay busy. Then I don't have to, contend with the pain that I might be experiencing with grief. That's kind of dosing your grief. You kind of enter into it for a while and then you pull back because it is painful. But to stay busy and to, think you're going to maybe shove it down further isn't going to be probably healthy in the long run. So it's kind of sitting with it, providing that space for those emotions to come. Let them come, let the tears flow, whatever that looks like, maybe even the anger flow. And then you're acknowledging it, you're giving it that time that it's desperately wanting with you at that moment.
This is my second grief support meeting, and I think you or someone else ran the last meeting that I was at. I couldn't be at the one last month, but there was a woman at the first meeting I was at, and I couldn't believe it. Someone very insensitive and basically told her to get over it. Do you remember that? Were you at that meeting? And someone said, you've grieved long enough. Don't tell somebody to get over it, for heaven's sakes. That's about the most insensitive thing you can say, because people will get over it in their own time, if they ever get over it, because they may not, right?
Absolutely. I mean, are we ever going to get over the love that we had for our loved one? Absolutely not. They've become that memorial kind of within us that now lives through us. So we're not getting over them. So why would we get over the emotion of losing them or the grief of losing them? Now, it'll become less dominant in our life. But do we actually ever get over grief? I'm going to say probably not. I think we learn to navigate through it. We learn to be curious about what grief can teach us. That's down the road, but when those first several days, weeks, and even months after grief, you just need to be kind to yourself and don't expect yourself to get over it, but just learn to kind of find out what works for you and navigate through that uncharted territory.
And one of the things that came up at this meeting, too, with a couple of gentlemen that were brothers here today, that I thought was kind of neat, was that when a friend or relative, real close friend or relative especially, passes, people will come up to you and say something like, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And I had that happen with me when my sister passed away, and I just... a lot of people don't know what to say, so be prepared to say something. My response is, go ahead and feel free to put us in prayer, But people can be very very kind in that regard when people pass away.
They can be, and I think people want to be able to comfort us, serve us, help us feel better We, as grieving people, you may not always know what you need. So I've learned as a grieving person, when somebody kind of asks, what do I need? And I'm not sure what to say, I put myself in the other position of saying, you know what, I'm going to bring you a meal on Tuesday, or let's go out to eat on this particular day. And it's amazing. The grieving person will probably say yes, unless they have something really going on. But just kind of, it's nice to leave that open-ended question. What can I do for you? What do you need? But honestly, your thoughts really aren't engaged at that moment. You may not even be able to say what you need. Some people will. I think you even said maybe that did you just say that, Jamie, in your prayers? Keep us in your prayers. Yeah. That's a great, never even thought of that. Yeah. That's a great response. But once again, it's just the grieving person, be kind to yourself. You may not always be able to articulate what you need, and others who are caring for somebody who is grieving or wanting to support them, just be open to provide, an idea or something that will just maybe take them out of their grief for a while. You're going to have to.
Well, no. You did a great job there. That was fantastic. And because I can remember after my sister passed, I have a very good friend, and he said, "Is there anything I could do?" And I said, "Well, let's just go ahead and go to breakfast." And we did, and we talked, and it was very, very helpful. So if there are people in your life that can be a support for you in a time where you are grieving, I think, take them up on that. For heaven's sakes, that I think that's a great idea. Now, tell us about this grief support group and how often they meet, and who might qualify to be able to come to this group, Elaine.
Anybody who's really in the Newton area or surrounding areas, if you're close by. We offer this through our Wesley Life Hospice bereavement team. But we've extended it to not just those that we cared for in during their hospice time with us and their loved ones. Then afterwards, for 12 months, we provide that grief support. We open up the grief group to anybody. You're welcome to come anytime.
Well, bless you for doing this, and I know Jason also. In fact, he presided over my sister's celebration of life and did a fantastic job, along with Aaron Gonzalez. And by golly, I'll tell you, it's helping me out quite a bit. And I know, it doesn't really happen very often anymore, but I'll be driving down First Avenue in Newton not long after my sister's passing, and it's all of a sudden I break out in tears, So, if you've lost anyone in your life, you can relate to the kind of grief that I was dealing with and the other people in this group deal with. And if you want to reach out to this group, get a hold of the people at Wesley Life Grief Support. And it's a great organization, and I think it'd be very beneficial to you. So, Elaine, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Elaine from Wesley Life Grief Support. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout. Other sponsors include Lynette Baker, Halo Branded Solutions, Westside Java Coffee Bar, and the Made Right Sandwich Shop in downtown Newton. Until next time, Grout is out. See ya!